Hey guys, tonight we step quietly into a place where the air itself feels heavy with memory, where shadows linger longer than they should, and echoes are not always born of footsteps. We are going to the heart of downtown Los Angeles, to the towering, time-worn facade of the Cecil Hotel. Its windows glint faintly under the city's restless lights, but inside it holds a silence that feels far older than the building itself. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Cecil rises like a faded sentinel against the night sky, its architecture a reminder of grander days. Once its lobby welcomed travelers in crisp suits and flowing dresses, their laughter mingling with the clink of glassware and the hum of elevators. Now the same lobby stands muted, its marble still polished, but dulled by time. The chandeliers, though intact, cast a pallid glow that struggles to chase away the shadows that gather in corners. A stillness lies here, an uneasy hush, as though the walls are listening more than they are standing. On this evening, a new guest arrives. His name is Daniel, a writer whose career has fallen quiet, silenced by a long stretch of uninspired days. He comes here not for comfort, but for curiosity, drawn by whispered stories of the Cecil, its reputation like a magnet pulling restless minds. He checks in with little fanfare. The clerk behind the counter offers a perfunctory smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Daniel notices this, and for a moment, he wonders if the clerk's hands tremble slightly when handing over the key. Room 624. The elevator ride is slow, the kind that makes you aware of each floor you pass. The mirrors inside reflect Daniel back at himself, though the lighting makes his features appear washed out, a little hollow. He presses against the brass railing, noting the faint scratches etched into its surface like someone long ago had clutched it too tightly. A soft rattle accompanies the elevator's climb, as if something unseen rides along in the cables above. When the doors finally open, the hallway yawns out before him. Carpeting dull with age muffles his footsteps, though the building seems to creak in reply, its bones shifting in protest. The walls are lined with faded wallpaper, patterned with shapes that could be vines or veins. It's hard to tell in the dim light. Some bulbs flicker, others are long since dead, leaving dark gaps where the shadows seem thicker. Room 624 welcomes him with a reluctant groan of hinges. Inside, the air is cooler, as though the room has been waiting without breath until this moment. The bed is made neatly, but the corners of the sheets curl just slightly, as if disturbed by invisible hands. A tall window overlooks the city, its glass clouded by grime and dust. Daniel places his bag on the floor, trying to ignore the way the sound echoes oddly, as though the room is larger than it appears. He takes a seat by the desk and pulls out his notebook. Words come slow, hesitant, like drops of water from a leaky faucet. He wants to write of the building itself, of the strange magnetism it has always held. Stories of people who never left, some by choice, others by tragic force. He scratches the first lines onto paper. The walls of the Cecil do not forget. They carry the weight of every soul that crossed them. As the hours stretch, the city outside hums with its usual chaos, but inside the room it feels detached, like an aquarium sealed from the noise of the world. Around midnight, Daniel notices something, a faint tapping. At first, he thinks it's from the pipes or the old radiator, but when he listens closely, he realizes it carries a rhythm. 2 taps, a pause, then 1. Again. 2 taps, a pause, then 1. He waits. The sound continues, steady, deliberate. He approaches the wall, where the sound seems strongest. The wallpaper is peeling at the edges, revealing plaster that crumbles beneath his fingers. He presses his ear against the surface, expecting to hear the movement of neighbors on the other side. But the wall feels hollow. The tapping stops the moment he touches it, replaced by silence so complete it roars in his head. Uneasy, Daniel returns to his desk, though the words now elude him. He lights the small bedside lamp, its glow soft and yellow, and for a brief moment it brings comfort. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he notices something in the reflection of the window. A shape small, crouched impossibly still. He whirls to look, but the room is empty. The reflection, however, lingers a second longer before dissolving into the night view of Los Angeles below. Sleep does not come easily. When Daniel finally drifts, his dreams are thick and oppressive. He finds himself walking the hotel's endless hallways, their length bending in ways that defy architecture. Doors line the walls, but none will open, no matter how he turns the handles. From behind them, faint whispers seep through layered, overlapping voices too many to count. He wakes with a jolt, heart pounding, the faint impression of hands pressing against his back. The clock shows 3:11 a.m. The room feels colder, the air damp as though a storm is passing, though outside the city lights glow steadily. From the corner near the window comes the faintest sound, not tapping this time, but a sigh, long tired, like someone weary of waiting. Daniel freezes, every instinct screaming at him not to move, not to breathe too loudly. The sigh fades, but the weight of it lingers, hanging in the air like unseen dust. He tells himself it's just the old building, the quirks of age, the creaks and sighs of a place long past its prime. Yet deep down, he knows it feels different. The Cecil doesn't creak, it listens, and tonight it has started to notice him. The morning comes reluctantly, slipping into the room through the grime-smeared window in threads of pale light. Daniel wakes as though dragged from a depth he hadn't chosen to enter, his chest heavy, his mind fogged. The sigh from the night before still echoes faintly in his memory, a sound that seemed less like breath and more like resignation, as though the hotel itself exhaled. He rises slowly, his body stiff, and glances around the room. Nothing is disturbed, nothing out of place. The bed is rumpled from his restless sleep. His notebook lies closed on the desk, and yet the air carries that same unnatural chill, as though the night has not fully left. He approaches the window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass. The city below is already awake. Taxis inching through intersections, pedestrians hurried and small from this height. Life continues outside, but inside the walls feel as though they keep their own time. In the lobby, breakfast is sparse, an urn of coffee, a tray of bruised fruit, the muffled clatter of spoons against porcelain. Daniel pours himself a cup black and takes a seat near the window, where the light can reach him. Around him, a few other guests sit in silence, faces drawn, eyes downcast. They do not speak to one another, not even in casual greeting. It strikes Daniel that in other hotels people often exchange smiles, nods, a shared sense of being travelers together. Here, the air between guests feels like glass, transparent, but unbroken, as though none dare disturb it. He notices a woman seated a few tables away, her hair long and dark, her posture perfectly upright. She stirs her coffee without drinking, her gaze fixed on the far wall where an old painting hangs. It is a landscape, mountains, and a lake, but the varnish has dulled the colors, sinking into shadow. Daniel follows her stare and wonders what she sees in it. When he looks back, her chair is empty. The coffee cup still steams. Returning upstairs, Daniel resolves to write. Perhaps the building itself will become the subject of his work. its heavy silence the backdrop for fiction that might breathe life into his stagnant career. Yet when he sets pen to paper, the words falter. His sentences meander. His thoughts circle the same strange impressions, the tapping, the sigh, the reflection in the glass. His notebook begins to fill, not with stories, but with fragments, corridors that bend when no one is watching. A window is not just glass, but a mirror, and mirrors lie. The walls breathe in silence. He pauses unnerved by his own handwriting as though the words had written themselves in some half-conscious trance. He closes the notebook sharply, the sound startling in the quiet. By afternoon, the weight of the room presses too heavily on him. He takes to the streets wandering downtown Los Angeles, where noise and movement jostle against one another. Vendors call from carts, traffic snarls, and the air is thick with heat. Yet even here, he cannot shake the sense of being observed as though invisible eyes linger at the edge of his vision. He finds himself glancing at building windows, half expecting to see someone staring back from high above. When he returns to the hotel at dusk, the lobby seems dimmer than before. The clerk offers no greeting this time, only a glance that slides away too quickly. Daniel steps into the elevator once more, the old machine groaning as it ascends. He presses against the railing, noting this time how the mirrored walls reflect the space with the slightest distortion. His reflection blinks a fraction too late. Room 624 greets him with its cold air, the sheets now neatly remade, though he does not recall requesting service. He sets his bag down carefully, eyes on the bed, noting the way the pillow indentations suggest a head had lain there. He tries to dismiss it, housekeeping nothing more. But the faintest indentation remains, even as the mattress should have settled. That night, Daniel lies awake longer, listening. The city outside drones faintly, but within the room every sound sharpens. The creak of the floorboards, the tick of the clock, even the subtle rustle of his own breath beneath the blankets. At 2:47 a.m., the tapping returns. 2 taps, a pause, then 1. Slow, patient. He counts them, heart-keeping time. He presses his ear to the wall again, and the tapping ceases, leaving him suspended in silence, so absolute he can hear his pulse thrum against the plaster. And then new sound. A low murmur. Not words, not exactly, but tonal, like someone trying to speak through water. He draws back sharply, stumbling, and nearly trips over his own bag. The murmur fades, but not before it carries a strange familiarity, as if his name were woven somewhere in its depths. He does not sleep again. Instead, he sits at the desk, with the lamp burning low, watching the door, the shadows, the unmoving window. His pen drifts across the paper in restless strokes. The walls want to speak, but they do not use words. Something waits between the floors. The night stretches endlessly, and Daniel realizes the Cecil is not simply a building of stone and plaster. It is an ear. And tonight, it has begun to listen more closely. By the third night, Daniel feels the hotel's gravity more deeply, as though each hour inside seeps into his bones. The city of Los Angeles buzzes below him with its neon pulse, but the Cecil seems cut adrift, floating in its own dim pocket of time. He tries to focus on writing, but his notebook resists him. Each attempt drifts back to fragmented sentences, sketches of shadows, unfinished thoughts that lead nowhere. He ventures into the hallway after midnight, hoping a walk might clear his mind. The corridor stretches on, lined with identical doors that seem to lean toward him under the weak light. The carpet muffles his footsteps, but in the silence, even that muted sound feels too loud. He passes room after room, noticing small details he hadn't before, numbers slightly crooked on their plaques, scratches etched low on some doors as though from fingernails. At the end of the hall, a service stairwell beckons with its heavy fire door propped open. The stairwell is colder, the concrete steps worn smooth by decades of use. A weak bulb buzzes above, and Daniel descends, feeling the weight of the building pressing down. He tells himself he'll just walk a few flights, but the air grows damp the lower he goes. When he reaches a landing, he sees a patch of wall where the paint bubbles, as if waterlogged. Pressing his fingers against it, he feels a faint vibration, as though a voice hums beneath the plaster. He jerks his hand away, suddenly aware of how alone he is, though the stairwell feels anything but empty. Returning to his room, he tries to rationalize. Old buildings carry sounds, pipes wiring the shuffle of other guests, yet the explanations feel brittle, and he senses the hotel listening to his denial with quiet patience. The following morning, he lingers in the lobby. He overhears two maintenance workers speaking near the elevator, their voices low. One mutters about another broken lock on the rooftop door. The other replies, "It's not the locks, it's them." When they notice Daniel watching, they fall silent, their gazes slipping away like stones sinking in water. Later, Daniel explores the public space's long hallways, with peeling wallpaper, abandoned conference rooms, with chairs stacked unevenly, a ballroom where the chandelier sways, though the air is still. He imagines the voices that once filled these spaces, laughter arguments, whispered confessions. Now the air feels thick with residue, as though the moments of those lives still linger half-trapped. By evening, he finds himself drawn to the 6th floor again, pacing outside his own door. The tapping hasn't returned yet, but he waits for it with the tense anticipation of someone listening for footsteps in the dark. Instead, he hears something else, a faint scuff from farther down the hall. He turns, expecting to see another guest. The corridor is empty. He waits, breath caught, and hears it again, a slow shuffle like bare feet dragging across carpet. He forces himself to walk toward the sound. Each step feels heavier, as though the hallway lengthens against him. At room 618, the sound halts. He stands before the door, staring at the tarnished handle, the faint indentation around the lock. For a moment, he swears he feels warmth radiating from the wood like breath from the other side. Then sudden silence. He returns to his room, unsettled, his skin prickling. He cannot shake the thought that the rooms themselves are not entirely empty, that perhaps not all the Cecil's guests ever checked out. That night, his sleep is restless. He dreams of the lobby as it once was filled with people in 1930s attire. Music plays faintly, but the melody falters like a record warped by heat. He walks among them, unnoticed, until he realizes their eyes are clouded, their movements repetitive, as though each is trapped in a loop of memory. A woman turns to him at last, her mouth opening as if to speak, but no sound emerges. Instead, a sigh passes through the room, long and weary, and he wakes gasping. The clock reads 3:00 a.m. sharp, and from the wall behind his bed, the tapping begins again. 2 taps, a pause, 1 tap. But this time it does not stop. It grows louder, steadier, until the rhythm fills the room, echoing in his chest like a second heartbeat. Daniel grips the sheet tightly, staring at the wall, certain that if he speaks, if he moves, the sound will change. It doesn't. It only waits. And in the waiting, he realizes something: the taps are not random. They are deliberate. They are trying to say something. Daniel sits rigid in the half-dark, the tapping clawing at his nerves. It is not frantic or wild. It is careful, intentional. He forces his breathing into shallow patterns so he can listen more closely. 2 taps, a pause, 1 tap, again. Then silence long enough to make him wonder if it has ended before it begins anew. He tries to ignore the surge of adrenaline, the primal urge to leave the room, but curiosity roots him in place. He tears a page from his notebook, and starts marking the rhythm, mapping it like code. 2, pause. 1, 2, pause. 1. He scribbles until the page fills with the repetition, until the markings themselves feel like an incantation. The thought occurs to him, Morse code. His mind resists, but the rhythm is too precise to be meaningless. He translates slowly, clumsily. The first sequence comes out garbled. He tries again, sweating, his hands shaking. The message is short, stay. His throat tightens. He drops the pen, the word echoing inside his mind like a whisper. It doesn't make sense. Why would the walls tell him to stay? He presses his palm against the plaster, half expecting to feel breath there again. Cold only. By morning the sound has ceased, but the word remains branded in him. Stay. He doesn't tell anyone. Who would believe it? Instead, he drifts through the day in a haze, watching the other guests more carefully. The same woman from before sits again in the lobby, her coffee untouched. Daniel studies her reflection in the lobby's tall window, only to realize her chair appears empty in the glass. He blinks hard. When he looks back, she is rising to leave, her footsteps too quiet on the worn carpet. In the elevator, he shares the cramped space with an older man in a wrinkled suit. The man stares at the floor numbers ascending with unblinking focus, muttering under his breath. Daniel leans closer, straining to catch the words. They form a chant of sorts. 6th, 12th, 17th, always the same floors. When the door opens, the man rushes out without a glance, leaving Daniel alone with the distorted reflection that lags a half second behind his movements. That evening, Daniel digs deeper into the hotel's history, combing through articles on his laptop. The screen glows in the dim room, each headline darker than the last. Cecil Hotel earns reputation as suicide hotspot. Night Stalker once called it home. Disappearance and death of Elisa Lamb. Tragedy layered upon tragedy, stacked like bricks in the foundation. He scrolls until the words blur the stories, tangling into a chorus of despair. It dawns on him that the Cecil is not haunted by one ghost. It is swollen with the residue of dozens, hundreds, each tragedy bleeding into the next. As he reads, the tapping begins again. This time it comes not from the wall, but from the bathroom. Slow, deliberate. He rises, compelled against his better judgment. The bathroom door creaks as he pushes it open. Inside the mirror above the sink is fogged, though no steam fills the air. A word scrawled across the glass forms in dripping letters. Stay. Daniel staggers back, his notebook falling from his hand. The page where he had scribbled the tapping code lies open, the word stay underlined, though he swears he never drew the line. His pulse pounds a drum against the silence. He wants to run, to leave the building that hums with sorrow, but something heavier holds him. He remembers the dream of the ballroom, the looped movements of the dead-eyed dancers, the woman turning her silent face toward him. He realizes the hotel does not ask all who enter to stay. Only some. Those who hear it. Those who listen. When he finally shuts the bathroom door, the mirror is clean. No fog, no words. The sink drips once, twice, and stillness returns. But Daniel knows. The Cecil has chosen him, and somewhere deep in its walls it is waiting. Daniel wakes with the weight of exhaustion pressing into his skull. Sleep had come in fragments, punctured by murmurs just beneath hearing shadows that slid along the edges of the room. The word stay lingers in his mind like a splinter. He doesn't write it down again, he doesn't need to. It is already inscribed on the walls of his thoughts. He spends the morning drifting restless. The air in his room feels thicker each hour, a subtle heaviness that makes him sweat, though the vent blows cold. Finally, he takes his notebook under his arm and wanders into the hallway. The corridor smells faintly of bleach, But beneath it is another odor, something older, sour, like metal and dust. He rides the elevator down, planning to leave the hotel. But when the doors slide open at the lobby, he hesitates. The front desk is empty. The entrance doors, streaked with grime, seem farther away than they should. The city's sunlight blurs at the glass like a painting too long exposed. Daniel feels suddenly that stepping through would be an enormous effort, as though the building itself holds him in its grasp. Instead, his gaze is drawn to the stairwell beyond the check-in desk. A faded sign warns for employees only. The door, however, is slightly ajar, a dark wedge gaping between frame and wall. Daniel knows he shouldn't, yet his feet move. The stairwell smells of damp stone, the air cool and stale. He descends carefully, the echo of each step bouncing unnaturally, as though the sound lingers too long. At the bottom, the corridor stretches ahead into shadow, lined with doors unmarked and heavy. He tests one, it groans open. Inside lies a storage room stacked with broken furniture, peeling mattresses, rusted frames. But it is not the decay that unsettles him. It is the sense of arrangement, as if each discarded item was placed deliberately, forming crooked aisles like pews in a church long abandoned. He steps deeper, the beam of his phone light slicing through the dust. A row of chairs sits facing the wall, each one occupied by headless mannequins, their torsos mottled with age. For a moment, Daniel swears one turns slightly toward him, its shadow shifting, though the air is still, the silence thickens. He backs away, pulling the door closed, the click of the latch sharp in the hush. His hands tremble as he continues down the hall. At the far end, a heavier door waits. Its metal surface is scarred, the handle cold against his palm. He pushes. The hinges groan open into a vast, low-ceilinged space, the basement. Pipes crisscross overhead, dripping sporadically into puddles on the concrete floor. The air hums with the mechanical heartbeat of the hotel boilers, sighing water rushing through unseen arteries. Daniel steps cautiously, his reflection rippling in the shallow water. Shapes loom in the shadows, pillars, machinery, stacks of crates. He feels watched, though the room is empty. Then he sees it, a narrow staircase at the far end, half hidden, leading further down. A chill seeps into him. He knows instinctively that this stair does not appear on any map, does not belong to any logical design. It is an artery that runs deeper into the marrow of the Cecil. He takes one step toward it, then another. The sound of dripping water grows louder, though the air grows drier. The stair yawns before him, descending into complete blackness, and then footsteps. They come from behind. Slow. Wet against the concrete. Daniel freezes his light, trembling in his hand. The sound draws closer, deliberate, unhurried. He does not turn. His body knows before his mind accepts it, whatever approaches is not bound to flesh. The steps halt just beyond his shoulder. He feels the weight of a presence leaning near, though no breath stirs the air. Slowly against his will, he turns his head. The space behind him is empty. Only the long corridor stretching back to the service stair. But the puddles tell another story. Footprints lead directly to him. Dark water slicked, each one still glistening as though freshly made. They stop exactly where he stands. Daniel bolts, rushing back through the hall, his breath ragged. He bursts into the stairwell, slamming the door behind him. On the landing, he collapses against the wall, heart thundering. The silence returns, broken only by the fading echo of dripping water. He knows now that the Cecil is not merely haunted. It is alive. And somewhere beneath it, in the unlit places, something stirs that should not. Daniel doesn't remember climbing the stairwell back to the lobby, only the desperate urge to put distance between himself and those fresh, wet footprints. By the time he reaches his room again, he is slick with sweat, his shirt clinging to his back. He locks the door, throws the deadbolt, and sits on the bed with his notebook in his lap. His hands still shake, but he forces himself to write to tether his thoughts before they scatter entirely. Basement, footsteps, no one there. The words look thin on the page, powerless to capture what pressed against him in that dark hall. He scratches them out, presses harder, writes again. It followed me. A knock startles him, 3 sharp raps against his door. He leaps, heart hammering, staring at the wood. For a long moment, silence. Then a voice, muffled. Housekeeping. He hesitates, every instinct screaming not to answer. When he finally peeks through the peephole, the corridor is empty. The faint scent of mildew wafts in from under the door, curling into the room like fingers. He staggers back, clamps the notebook shut, and shoves it into his bag. He needs air. The elevator feels oppressive, so he takes the stairs instead, descending quickly. On the second-floor landing, he hears another sound, a faint scuffle, like shoes dragging over the carpet. Daniel freezes. From around the bend of the stairwell, a woman's voice drifts up, barely above a whisper. Don't go down. Don't go down. Her words loop, repeating without pause. He leans carefully over the railing, but the stairwell below yawns empty. The voice continues floating upward, hollow as a recording. The hair on his arms lifts. He rushes down to the lobby, shoving through the door, gasping for breath. The front desk attendant is finally there, a young man scrolling on his phone. Daniel approaches, desperate for something mundane. Hey, do you know if the basement is open to guests? I thought I heard. The man's eyes flicker up, weary. Basement's locked. Always locked. His voice carries the sharpness of dismissal, but Daniel notices his hand tightening around the phone, his jaw tightening as if he's hiding something. That night, Daniel doesn't try to sleep. Instead, he roams the hotel, notebook in hand, sketching the corridors like a cartographer. On the 12th floor, he finds a hallway sealed off with plastic sheeting, yellow caution tape drooping loosely. The sign reads, "Under renovation." He slips inside, dust coating his shoes, the silence heavier than elsewhere. The rooms here gape open, stripped bare. No beds, no furniture, only the outlines where pictures once hung. In one room, the wallpaper has peeled away, revealing old paint beneath. He shines his light, startled to see faint words scrawled into the plaster. Stay, 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 stay. The repetition marches across the wall, carved deep by what must have been fingernails. Daniel's light falters, and for an instant he thinks he sees movement in the corner. A figure standing just out of reach, tall and motionless. He blinks, steadies the beam, but the space is empty. Only the dust stirring faintly in the air. When he turns back toward the hallway, the plastic sheeting hangs differently. He could swear the opening he slipped through is gone. Panic claws through him as he runs, pushing at the barrier, until he bursts back into the corridor, gasping. The door to the stairwell waits at the end of the hall. This time his eyes are drawn upward. The sign above it does not read exit. It reads roof access. He stares, heart pounding. The rooftop. He had overheard the maintenance men muttering about the broken locks. His body tenses with a strange certainty the hotel is guiding him. He should turn away. He knows this. Yet his hand is already closing around the handle. The door swings open with a reluctant groan, revealing a narrow stair that spirals upward. Each step echoes louder than it should, as if the building itself is amplifying his presence. The air grows colder as he climbs, heavy with the scent of rust and something faintly metallic like old blood. When he pushes open the rooftop door, the city sprawls before him, Los Angeles, alive with neon and headlights. But the Cecil feels cut off from it all, a solitary island of stone. The rooftop is flat, ringed by a rusted railing, the concrete scarred by age. Daniel steps forward, the night air sharp in his lungs. And then he sees it, the water tank. Its hulking silhouette rises against the sky, massive cylindrical blacker, than the night around it. Daniel stops in his tracks, dread sliding through him like ice. Every headline, every tragedy he read flashes in his mind. The unsolved, the unexplained, the bodies that were found floating inside. The tank waits silent, a monolith of sorrow. And Daniel knows with absolute certainty whatever stirs beneath the hotel is tied to this place. The Cecil has led him here. The rooftop wind claws at Daniel's shirt, tugging at him as though trying to push him back toward the stairwell. Yet his eyes remain locked on the looming water tank. Its curved surface gleams faintly in the city's reflected light, the iron streaked with vertical lines of corrosion that resemble tears. He swallows hard. Every instinct tells him to retreat, but curiosity sharpened now into obsession drives him forward. The rooftop feels wrong. The city stretches out endlessly, headlights crawling across the streets, neon signs flickering like pulses. But there is no sound, no rush of traffic, no distant sirens, no hum of life. Daniel stands in silence so complete it presses against his eardrums. The Cecil has cut him off, sealed him in its hollow heart. He approaches the tank. Each step echoes faintly off the rooftop concrete, a sound both immediate and delayed, as though the rooftop records his footfalls and plays them back an instant later. He places a hand on the metal surface. It is damp, though the night air is dry. A chill seeps into his skin, crawling up his arm, until he shudders and jerks his hand away. The tank's lid is secured with an old iron latch. Daniel hesitates, breath hitching, but then he presses. The latch gives too easily, as if it had been waiting for him. The lid creaks open an inch, and from within comes the faintest whisper of water shifting, followed by something else, a sigh. He lifts the lid wider, peering down into the dark. His light catches the surface of the water, black and glassy. Ripples spread across it, though nothing has disturbed the liquid. The reflection of his own face wavers there, pale and drawn, and then without warning another reflection forms beside his, a woman's face, gaunt, her eyes wide and unblinking. Daniel recoils, but when he looks again, only his reflection stares back at him. The water ripples fade, returning to stillness. A metallic clang shatters the silence. He whirls. The rooftop door has slammed shut, though no wind should have carried it. Panic flares. He rushes back, grabbing at the handle. It doesn't budge. Locked. From the outside, he pounds on the door. His shouts swallowed by the silence. No one hears. No one answers. His chest heaves as he spins back to the tank. The lid stands open, gaping like a mouth. He hears it. Then the whisper. Low, insistent curling out of the water. Stay. The word chills him deeper than the rooftop wind. It is not sound in the air, but in his bones a vibration that threads into him. He staggers back, clapping his hands over his ears, though the whisper remains. The concrete beneath him seems to tilt unsteady. He sees things flicker at the edges of his vision figures lining the rooftop silhouettes, staring with hollow eyes. They do not move, yet he feels their weight pressing in. His pulse races his breath, tearing ragged through his throat. Desperate, Daniel squeezes his eyes shut and mutters to himself, "Not real. Not real." But the voices grow louder, overlapping a chorus that rises from the tank, from the walls, from the city that no longer exists outside. When he dares open his eyes again, the rooftop is empty. The lid of the tank hangs closed. The door, when he touches it again, swings open without resistance. Daniel stumbles down the stairwell, his knees weak. He doesn't remember reaching his room, only collapsing onto the bed, the ceiling above him spinning slowly. He clutches his notebook to his chest, whispering to himself, like a prayer, "It wants me to stay. It wants me to stay." And somewhere deep inside, a terrible realization coils part of him already wants to. When Daniel wakes again, he cannot be certain how long he has slept. The room is dim, though whether it is night or day he cannot tell. The curtains seem heavier now, the light seeping through them dull and colorless, as if the world beyond has been drained of hue. He sits up disoriented, his throat parched. His notebook lies open on the nightstand. He does not remember leaving it there. Across the page, written in a hand not his own, are words that make his stomach twist. "You are not alone here." The letters are jagged, pressed deep enough into the paper that the ink has bled through. Daniel flips the page, but the next sheet is blank. He closes the book with trembling hands, telling himself he must have written it in some half-dreaming state. Yet the handwriting does not match his. He needs company. Even a fleeting human presence would anchor him, tether him back to the ordinary world. He decides to return to the lobby. The elevator doors part with their slow sigh. He steps inside, presses L. The car jolts, begins its descent. Halfway down, the lights flicker. The hum of the machinery shifts lower, groaning. The panel of buttons changes letters and numbers, blurring, rearranging until they no longer spell floors but words. Daniel leans close, unable to look away. Stay down, water. The elevator shudders to a halt. The doors open not onto the lobby, but a hallway he has never seen. The carpeting is threadbare, darkened with stains that no longer resemble anything familiar. The walls are lined with mirrors, each tarnished, their surfaces warped. Daniel steps out against his better judgment. The elevator doors close behind him. When he spins to press the button again, the car is gone. Only another stretch of hallway, endless, lined with mirrors. He begins to walk. His footsteps echo, soft yet multiplied, as though others move in tandem with him. The mirrors flash glimpses of him, but the reflections are wrong. In one, his eyes are entirely black. In another, his skin hangs loose gray and lifeless. He forces himself not to look, but the urge is overwhelming. At last, he sees another figure ahead, a woman standing motionless in the hall. Her back is to him, hair long and dark, her dress pale. Relief surges through him, though laced with dread. He quickens his pace. "Hey!" His voice cracks with desperation. "Hey, wait!" The woman does not move. He draws closer, breath shallow. When he is only a few steps away, she turns. Her face is blurred as if smeared by unseen hands, features sliding where they should be fixed. Yet her eyes remain clear, sharp, reflecting the dim light like mirrors. Her lips part. Her voice is a whisper that seems to come from everywhere at once. "You shouldn't have come here." Daniel stumbles back. The mirrors around them shiver, their surfaces rippling like disturbed water. In each one, dozens of reflections stare out men-women faces contorted with grief, rage, terror. They press against the glass as if begging release. The woman lifts her hand, and every mirror fractures at once, a sharp cascade of sound. Shards rain down, dissolving before they touch the carpet. Daniel shields his face, heart pounding. When he looks again, the hallway is empty. The woman is gone. The silence that follows is unbearable. He runs, breath ragged, until suddenly, without warning, he bursts into the lobby. The front desk stands where it should. A bell dings softly, as if announcing his arrival. But there is no relief. Because at the far corner, sitting in one of the faded lobby chairs, is the woman. This time her face is intact, perfectly ordinary. She crosses her legs, smiles faintly, and whispers just loud enough for him to hear. "See, you're not alone." Daniel stands frozen in the lobby, his eyes fixed on the woman in the chair. She seems so normal now, her dress neat, her posture graceful, her smile polite. Yet he knows what he saw in that endless hallway, the smeared face, the fractured mirrors. His mouth is dry when he forces words out. Who are you? The woman tilts her head as though considering whether to answer. Someone who's been here too long, she says softly. Her voice carries no malice, only exhaustion. Like all the others, Daniel feels the lobby shift around him, though nothing physically changes. It's as though invisible walls have drawn closer, the ceiling sinking lower. He glances toward the doors, but they appear impossibly far away, as if the space between him and the street has stretched by yards. I need to leave. He mutters more to himself than to her. Her smile widens, though her eyes stay sharp, unblinking. Leave? No one leaves the Cecil. You wander, you fade, you stay. The word claws through him, stay. It echoes the whispers from the water tank, the scratched wallpaper upstairs. His pulse quickens. That's not true. People check out all the time. She rises smoothly to her feet. Even from across the lobby, he notices the faint wetness at the hem of her dress, as though she has stepped out of water. Do you remember walking in? She asks. Daniel opens his mouth, then stops. His memories feel blurred, indistinct. He recalls standing at the front desk speaking with a clerk who scrolled his phone. But how did he arrive? Taxi? Maybe train. The thought slips like sand through his grasp. He tries again harder, but the moment of arrival refuses to take shape. The woman's voice is gentle. You didn't come here. You were brought here. Daniel takes a shaky step backward. No, that's not right. I came here to... He falters. To what research right? Escape something. His reasons suddenly feel fragile, as though they belonged to someone else. The woman begins to circle him, her footsteps soundless on the faded carpet. The lobby darkens, shadows lengthening unnaturally, as though the lamps burn weaker with each step she takes. You think you're exploring the hotel, she murmurs, but the hotel is exploring you. Every hallway is a vein. Every room is a memory. And every guest who walks these corridors becomes part of it. He squeezes his eyes shut, shaking his head, desperate to deny her words. You're not real. Then why do you hear me in your bones? She asks. Daniel's breath comes shallow and fast. He clutches his notebook, trying to anchor himself. If he writes, maybe he can hold on to something. He opens it, ready to jot down her words, but the pages are already filled row after row of the same phrase, stay with us. His own handwriting. Page after page, a sob rips from his throat. He hurls the notebook across the room, the sound echoing like thunder. The woman only watches him, her face unreadable now. The lobby clock begins to chime, though it has no hands on its face. Each toll reverberates too long, bending in his skull. Daniel spins toward the glass doors again. For a fleeting instant, he sees the night outside the city, alive headlights streaking past. He bolts toward them, desperate for escape, but as his hands strike the glass, the view shifts. The city dissolves into darkness, replaced by the murky reflection of water pressing against the other side. Shapes float in the depths. Pale outlines, faces turned upward, eyes wide and waiting. Daniel stumbles back, choking on his breath. Behind him, the woman whispers her words, sinking like weights into his mind. You can't leave, Daniel. You're already drowning. Daniel staggers away from the glass doors, his palms slick with sweat. The image of those pale faces pressing against the other side of the glass lingers in his mind, their eyes clouded, yet intent, as though they recognized him. His chest tightens with the creeping suspicion that he recognized them too, though he cannot place from where. The woman no longer stands behind him. The chair where she had been seated is empty. For a moment, he convinces himself She never existed, just another hallucination conjured by exhaustion. But then, a ripple moves across the lobby floor, faint and circular, as though water has been disturbed under the carpet itself. Daniel backs away, heading toward the elevators. He jabs the button, frantic. The doors open instantly, too quickly, as if waiting for him. He steps inside and slams the button for his floor. The elevator doors close, and the car ascends with a heavy groan. The floor indicator ticks upward, 2, 3, 4, then stalls at 6. The car trembles, lights flickering overhead. A static hum fills the air. The mirrored panel across from him catches his reflection, but what he sees is not himself. The figure in the mirror wears his clothes, but its skin is bluish lips, parted as if gasping for air. Bubbles rise in the reflection, though the air around Daniel is still. He stumbles backward, pressing himself against the wall, shaking his head violently. No. No. He refuses to look at it again, but the reflection moves closer, pressing its face against the glass until cracks begin to spiderweb outward. The elevator jerks, descending now. Numbers scroll past faster than they should, 42L, then into symbols he cannot read. The car shudders to a stop. The doors part to reveal another hallway, unfamiliar, yet hauntingly familiar. The wallpaper is peeling, patterned with faint water stains that bloom outward like spreading hands. The air is damp, thick, with the metallic tang of rust. Daniel hesitates, but the elevator groans, lights dimming, threatening to plunge him into darkness. With no choice, he steps out. The hallway is lined with doors, each one slightly ajar. From within, faint noises, drift whispers, muffled sobs, the sound of dripping water. Daniel forces himself to keep walking, though every instinct screams to turn back. At the end of the hall, he sees a figure standing. It is himself. His own back, his own posture, even the way his shoulders slump in fatigue. The figure holds the notebook. Daniel freezes. The figure slowly turns, revealing his own face, but older, hollow-eyed lips moving soundlessly. Then, clear as water rushing into his ears, Daniel hears the words, "You've always been here." The hallway tilts, the ceiling spinning overhead. Daniel's vision blurs, and suddenly he is at the lobby desk again, pen in hand, signing his name into a guest book that feels infinitely old. The clerk hands him a key expression, unreadable. He glances down. The date beside his signature is smudged, but what he can see chills him. It is decades in the past. The pen slips from his hand. He staggers back. The lobby clock tolls again, its faceless surface booming. He feels as though he has stepped into his own grave. Around him, guests drift through the lobby. Their clothing is outdated styles from the 1940s, the 1960s, the 1980s. They glance at him with weary recognition. Some nod. Others smile faintly. He stumbles toward the staircase, desperate to break free of the cycle. But every step only seems to lead him upward and downward at once, the stairwell folding into itself like an impossible maze. And always the woman's voice follows him, whispering from somewhere unseen. "You can't remember arriving because you never did. The Cecil remembers you. It always has." The staircase breathes around him, the walls expanding and contracting with each unsteady step. Daniel clings to the railing, his knuckles white. The air is colder now, the scent of mold and rust more pronounced, like damp basements where light never reaches. He climbs upward, or perhaps downward, his orientation dissolving. Every few landings he passes a door marked with a floor number, but the sequence is broken. 12, 14, 9, 2. Numbers that loop, skip, repeat. The stairwell has no logic. A sudden burst of laughter stops him mid-step, its brittle, high-pitched echoing in the empty space. Daniel presses himself against the wall, heart hammering. Then he hears the faint creak of rope, followed by a snap. For an instant, something brushes past him, cold and heavy, like a body falling through unseen air. The echo fades, but the terror lingers. His thoughts circle back unbidden to the stories he had read about this place before arriving. Men and women who had leapt from upper windows plummeting into the city below. Their tragedies etched into the hotel's infamy, whispered like folklore. The Cecil had been called the suicide hotel once. He had thought of it as sensationalism, grim marketing, a myth exaggerated by time. Now, in the suffocating dark, he feels each story pressing close the echoes of those who had let go. Daniel forces himself to keep moving. The stairwell door opens onto a corridor lit by dim fluorescent tubes. Their buzzing fills his ears, almost drowning the sound of dripping water somewhere far off. The carpeting here is threadbare edges curling, revealing the wooden planks beneath. He walks slowly, each step cautious. A room door stands slightly open. Against his better judgment, he peers inside. The room looks ordinary bed nightstand window, but the air carries a strange heaviness. On the wall above the bed, faint water stains form a shape almost human, a shadow lying in perpetual repose. He shudders and pulls away, closing the door quietly. Further down, another door gapes wide. Inside, the scene is stark. A single chair stands overturned near the window. The curtains stir, though the window is shut. On the floor lies an old pair of women's shoes, scuffed and left neatly side by side, as if the person had stepped out of them in an orderly fashion before vanishing. Daniel backs away, throat tightening. These rooms feel less like accommodations and more like shrines to despair, each one bearing the residue of someone's last moment. He passes more doors, each ajar, each revealing fragments, a cracked mirror spattered with old stains, a bathtub ringed in rust too dark to be rust, a radio whispering static though unplugged. The weight of countless lives presses down on him, as if the walls themselves have absorbed every scream, every sob, every silent plea. At the end of the hall stands another figure. Not the woman, not his double. This one is a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his outline blurred by the faulty light. Daniel takes a hesitant step forward. The man does not move, but the air grows sharper metallic, as though thick with blood. Then, with a slow tilt of the head, the man lifts his arm. In his hand glints the faint outline of something sharp. A knife, maybe, or a shard of glass. Daniel's breath catches. He thinks of the hotel's history again, of murders whispered about, of rooms sealed after crimes too brutal to clean. The Cecil had harbored killers, once men who blended among the guests while leaving trails of blood behind. The man takes a step forward. The overhead light pops, plunging the hall into near darkness. Only the faint glow from a window at the far end remains. In that dim light, Daniel sees the man more clearly. Hollow eyes, clothes-soaked footsteps, leaving wet impressions on the carpet. Daniel bolts, sprinting down the corridor, every instinct screaming to flee. He throws open a stairwell door and races down or up until his legs ache and his breath burns. When he bursts through the next door, he is in the lobby again. The same faded armchairs, the same useless clock, the same feeling of a cage. But this time the lobby is not empty. Every chair is filled. Guests sit silently, their faces pale, their clothes spanning decades. They turn their heads toward him in unison, eyes gleaming faintly in the dim light. Daniel stumbles back, heart in his throat. A chorus of voices rises, overlapping whispers filling the air like a tide. You've seen us. Now you stay with us. Daniel reels against the wall, the whispers swelling around him. The guests remain seated, but their heads track his every movement with unnerving precision. Their lips move, though not in unison, some smiling faintly, others grimacing their mouths, shaping fragments of words that ripple through the stale air. He clamps his hands over his ears, but it does nothing. The whispers are not carried on sound. They live in the marrow of his bones. Each voice pulls at him with a strange intimacy. as though they know him, as though they have always known him. Sit, one voice insists, sharp and commanding. Listen, another breathes, fragile and childlike. Stay, dozens echo together. Daniel shakes his head violently. No, his voice cracks. I'm not one of you. At once the room quiets. The silence is worse. The guests rise in unison. Every chair creaks as pale bodies stand moving with slow deliberation. Some are soaked to the knees, water dripping steadily onto the carpet. Others drag their feet, leaving faint smears of something darker than mud. Their eyes shine faintly, not with light, but with the reflection of his fear. The front desk looms behind them. The clerk is there again, the same man with his indifferent face, scrolling his phone lazily. But this time, Daniel notices something. His hands are submerged wrists, vanishing into the surface of the counter as though it were liquid. His fingers make ripples when they swipe, yet the screen glows on dry. Daniel's breath falters. He backs away, searching desperately for any opening, any door that might take him somewhere else. Anywhere else. His eyes lock on the elevator at the far side of the lobby. The doors are open, waiting. With a burst of panic, he bolts. Feet pounding against the faded carpet, he shoves through the silent crowd. Their heads turn as one, but they do not block his path. Instead, they whisper louder, almost encouraging. Go higher. Find it. The top floor. He slams into the elevator, stabbing the button. The doors slide shut just as the first of the guests reaches him, their pale fingers brushing the edge of the frame. The car shudders to life. The numbers tick upward, 8, 12, 14, then skip. The panel flashes symbols, then blanks entirely. Still, the elevator ascends. Daniel leans against the wall chest, heaving. For a moment, he dares to hope. But the air grows colder, the smell of mildew stronger. The light above him flickers, sputters, until only a dim, sickly glow remains. The car slows, then halts. The doors part with a groan. Before him lies a hallway unlike any he has seen yet. The wallpaper is blackened with moisture patterns warped into grotesque shapes. The carpet squelches underfoot as though soaked. At the far end, a single door stands closed, its frame warped, swollen with dampness. Every instinct tells him this is the place the voices wanted him to find. He steps out, his shoes sinking into the wet carpet. The door seems impossibly far away, the hall stretching longer with every step. Yet he cannot stop. Something pulls him forward, a magnet in his chest. When at last he reaches it, he sees the brass numbers affixed crookedly to the door, 14008. His stomach twists. A room number that shouldn't exist. The building doesn't even have a 13th floor. He grasps the handle. It is icy, almost painful to the touch. Behind him, the hallway breathes, the walls expanding with each inhale, contracting with each exhale. A whisper threads through the silence, gentle coaxing. Come inside, Daniel. We've kept it waiting for you. The door creaks open. A flood of cold, stagnant air sweeps over him. Inside, darkness waits. Daniel hesitates at the threshold, the weight of the door heavy in his hand. The darkness inside room 1408 is absolute, like a mouth waiting to swallow him whole. His pulse hammers in his ears, yet he cannot retreat. The very walls of the hallway press in on him as though urging him forward, suffocating him if he lingers too long. He steps inside. The door slams shut behind him with the force of a gunshot. Daniel whirls around, fumbling for the handle, but it is gone. His palm brushes smooth wall where the door had been. There is no way out now. He stands in pitch-black silence, the kind that gnaws at the edges of the mind. Gradually, a faint glow spreads not from lamps or bulbs, but from the walls themselves, damp and glistening as if sweating light. The room is small, but it feels impossibly large. The ceiling arches higher than it should, lost in shadows, while the floor ripples underfoot, slick like the bottom of a drained pool. The smell is brackish metallic, unmistakably the scent of water, left too long stagnant. In the center of the room stands a bed. Sheets neatly tucked pillow fluffed, yet covered in a faint layer of condensation. Beside it, a nightstand supports a cracked glass of water. Droplets roll endlessly down its sides, though the glass never empties. Daniel's throat is dry. Against his better judgment, he lifts the glass. The water inside is cloudy, faintly tinted like diluted ink. As he raises it, the surface trembles, not from his hand, but as if something beneath is disturbing it. Tiny bubbles rise. He drops it quickly, the glass shattering against the floor, the liquid spreading outward in unnatural speed. The water snakes across the floor, curling around his shoes, soaking into the seams of his jeans. He backs away, but the rippling floor absorbs the spreading puddle, darkening, deepening. With dawning horror, Daniel realizes it is no longer floor at all. It is a surface. He is standing on water. The bed floats, slightly creaking with the shift of unseen currents. The nightstand wobbles before sinking slow and deliberate, vanishing into the depths. Daniel stumbles back, panic clawing at him. But no matter which direction he turns, there are no walls now, only endless dark water. The glow fades, leaving him adrift in blackness, then ripples. Something stirs below. Figures rise slowly, their outlines distorted by the wavering surface. Pale faces break through eyes rolled back, mouths gaping as though in silent screams. Their hair streams upward like seaweed. One face turns toward him, bloated and gray, and his chest seizes. He recognizes her. The woman from the lobby. Her lips part, and water gushes out, spilling words that are not sound, but sensation. You can't climb out. You can only sink. Hands grasp at his ankles, cold and slimy, pulling. Daniel kicks, thrashes, stumbling onto the floating bed, heart racing. The mattress bobs under his weight, damp but solid enough for now. Below, the pale hands reach upward, clawing at the air, but they cannot quite touch him. A sound echoes across the black water, a single knock. Hollow, deliberate. He looks behind him. The door has returned, standing impossibly in the middle of the water, its warped frame dripping. The brass numbers shine faintly, 1408. The knocking continues, steady, patient. Something on the other side is waiting. Daniel's choice is clear. Remain adrift in this drowned nightmare until he is dragged under, or open the door and face what waits beyond. His hands shake as he crawls across the mattress toward it. Each knock resonates deeper in his skull. When he finally reaches for the handle, the whispers rise again, all around, from the water, from the air, from within himself. We've been waiting for you. Don't keep us waiting any longer. Daniel's trembling hand grips the handle. It is slick, as though coated with condensation, but the metal burns against his skin, searing cold that bites deeper the longer he holds on. The knocking stops. The silence that follows is worse, like the room itself is holding its breath. He twists. The latch clicks. The door swings inward without effort, though no hand pulls it. Beyond is not a hallway, nor any room he recognizes. Instead, he stares into a corridor of water, suspended in midair, stretching infinitely in both directions. The liquid walls shimmer like glass, wavering with unseen currents, and shapes drift within them. Distorted faces pressed against the surface as though desperate to escape. Daniel hesitates on the threshold, one foot still planted on the swaying mattress, the other hovering above the impossible corridor. Behind him, the drowned figures surge upward again. Their pale hands break the water's surface, clawing for his legs. Their eyes open wide in pleading hunger. There is no choice. He steps through. The door slams shut behind him, the sound muffled as though swallowed by the liquid walls. The mattress vanishes, the room gone. He is now walking on a thin strip of dry floor, suspended inside this aquatic prison. His reflection glides along both sides, stretched and broken by the wavering water. The faces in the walls watch, their mouths open and close, soundlessly bubbles rising from invisible depths. Some press their hands flat against the watery surface palms, distorted skin pale and cracked. Daniel averts his gaze, but their eyes follow him, accusing, pleading, condemning, all at once. He walks. Each step echoes unnaturally, too loud for the narrow path. The corridor twists, though the floor remains straight. Time itself feels fractured. He can't tell if minutes or hours pass, only that his legs ache and his mind frays with every step. At last, he sees something ahead. Another door. This one is different, larger, heavier, iron-bound. Its surface is streaked with salt, as though dredged from the sea. Above it, etched into the corroded metal, is a single phrase. The tide does not forgive. Daniel swallows hard, his throat dry, despite the overwhelming presence of water. He reaches out, but before his fingers touch the iron, the water to his right convulses violently. A figure bursts through. Not one of the pale, drowned souls, but something else. Its body is gaunt, elongated, dripping brine and weeds. Its eyes glow faintly yellow, animalistic, yet hollow. With a guttural rasp, it hauls itself halfway out of the liquid wall, long arms stretching toward him. Daniel stumbles back, colliding with the opposite wall of water. Faces press against it, mouths stretching unnaturally wide. Cold hands erupt, clutching at his shoulders, his wrists pulling. The corridor groans around him, water trembling as though about to burst through. Panicked, he shoves forward, slamming both palms against the iron door. It does not budge. The creature claws closer, nails scraping against the thin floor. He screams, throwing his weight against the door one final time. With a screech of rusted hinges, it tears open. A torrent of water surges through, engulfing him instantly. He is pulled forward, dragged into the flood. For a moment, he cannot breathe. His lungs fill with icy blackness, his body tumbling end over end. Then silence. He is lying on a carpet once more, gasping, coughing, his clothes soaked. Daniel blinks into dim light. He is back in a hallway of the Cecil. The patterned wallpaper, the flickering fluorescence, the sagging carpet, all familiar again. But something is different. The hallway stretches impossibly far. Every door along it hangs open, and in each doorway stands a figure, silent, watching him. Men, women, children, decades of guests who never left. And at the far end, the woman in black waits, her head still bowed, her hands clasped. This time, when she looks up, her face is visible. Daniel freezes. He is staring at his own face. Daniel's breath catches as he stares down the endless corridor, his own face gazing back at him from the figure in black. Her features are identical to his same tired eyes, same faint scar along the jawline, same furrow in the brow. Yet she is impossibly still, every movement of her body unnaturally smooth, deliberate as though she has practiced the role of him for centuries. She does not speak. The silence between them is heavy, suffocating. Every door along the hallway seems to lean inward, their frames sagging like listening ears. The silent figures at the thresholds don't blink, don't breathe. Their presence presses against Daniel's chest, urging him forward without a word. He tries to speak, his throat raw from salt water. "What do you want from me?" His voice echoes, faintly swallowed by the carpeted walls. The figure tilts her head in perfect mimicry of his own nervous habit. She turns slowly, her gown dragging along the carpet, like a shadow unspooling, and begins to walk deeper into the corridor. Her steps are silent, her form almost floating. Daniel hesitates, but the silence behind him is worse than the unknown ahead. The drowned faces, the hands clutching at his ankles, the suffocating black water, all of it feels as though it waits just behind his shoulder. So he follows. Each step feels heavier than the last. The air in the corridor thickens damp with the scent of mildew and copper. The walls pulse faintly, breathing with the same unnatural rhythm as the hotel itself. They pass room after room. Each door opens slightly wider as Daniel draws near, giving him glimpses of impossible interiors. In one, a couple lies in bed, their faces slack and gray, their bodies unmoving, but their chests rise and fall in shallow unison. In another, a bathtub sits filled to the brim water, dark as ink. A pale hand dangles over the edge, dripping steadily. One room is filled entirely with birds, dozens of them perched silently on furniture. Their heads cocked, their eyes bright, but not a single wing stirs. Daniel quickens his pace, trying not to look, but the glimpses cling to his mind. Each door seems like a memory, not his own fragments of stories lived and lost within the hotel's walls. At last, they reach the end of the hall. A single door stands shut, darker than the others, its frame warped and slick. The figure stops before it and turns. Her face the mirror of his looks directly into his eyes. Still, she does not speak, but her lips part just slightly, as though forming a word that never leaves her tongue. Daniel's skin prickles. The air hums around him, low and resonant like the groan of an ocean trench. His reflection reaches for the door handle and pauses, waiting. Not asking permission, demanding his choice. He realizes with a sinking clarity that whatever lies beyond is not merely another room. It is something final. The heart of the Cecil. The place all these hallways, all these drowned corridors, all these whispers have been steering him toward. Daniel swallows hard. His hand rises, trembling, reaching for the handle beside hers. The moment his fingers brush the icy metal, every door in the hallway slams shut at once. The sound reverberates like a gunshot, 1,000 echoes collapsing into silence. The figure smiles faintly, his own smile reflected back at him. Together they push the door open. Beyond only darkness waits, and then a voice. Not hers, not his, but everywhere inside and out. Welcome home. Daniel stands at the threshold, the breath caught in his lungs. The darkness beyond the door is not absence, it is substance thick and writhing, a shadow with weight. It moves like smoke, but pulses like a living thing. His reflection, the woman in black, waits at his side, still wearing his face, her expression serene as though this was the only destination possible. The voice lingers in the air, echoing faintly, "Welcome home." The darkness stirs. It does not wait for him to decide. Slowly, it spills outward. Thick tendrils, seeping into the hallway like ink in water. They creep along the carpet, curling around his shoes, climbing his legs. He stumbles back, panic clawing at his chest, but the corridor behind him has already vanished. The shadows devour everything doors. Wallpaper the silent figures until only the single doorway remains. His reflection does not move. Her eyes. His eyes glimmer faintly, unblinking, as the blackness wraps around her shoulders and pulls her in. She does not resist. She dissolves, becoming part of it. Daniel fights against the pull fingers, scraping the walls for something solid. The shadows are cold, impossibly cold, burning through his skin like frostbite. He gasps, choked by the scent of mildew and brine. The hotel groans around him, every sound merging into one deep vibration, as though the building itself is exhaling. The last light fades. His body lurches forward, and he is swallowed whole. For a moment, nothing. Then his eyes open. He is lying on his back in bed, his own bed. The patterned ceiling above him is familiar, the stains, the peeling paint. A buzzing lamp flickers weakly in the corner. He sits up, sharply drenched in sweat. The sheets cling to him, damp and cold. The room looks the same as it did when he first arrived. Room 1408. Daniel presses a trembling hand to his face. His breathing slows. Perhaps it was only a nightmare born of exhaustion and fear. He forces himself to stand, his legs unsteady, his chest tight. The window catches his eye. Outside, the city stretches endlessly. But it is not Los Angeles. The skyline is wrong, jagged, unfamiliar. The lights flicker in patterns he cannot recognize. And far below, the streets are flooded rivers winding through cracked asphalt buildings, half submerged. The city is drowning. Daniel stumbles back. His reflection stares at him from the glass, but it is not quite his. The smile is too wide, the eyes too calm. Slowly, the reflection raises its hand and places it against the window. Daniel does not move, frozen in place. From the hallway, faint footsteps echo, dozens of them, hundreds, approaching his door, and then softly, insistently the knock. "We've been waiting for you." The lamp flickers once more, then dies, plunging the room into blackness. The knock continues steady and patient, each rattle of the doorframe crawling deeper into Daniel's bones. His chest tightens as the rhythm shifts, no longer random, but deliberate, like a heartbeat, like the pulse of something alive on the other side. He backs away, the soles of his shoes sticking slightly to the damp carpet. His eyes flick to the window again. The city beyond is drowning buildings dissolving into black water streets, twisting like serpents beneath the flood. His reflection stares back at him, smiling faintly, its hand pressed against the glass as though trying to push through. The knocking stops. The silence is worse. Daniel swallows hard, forcing his breath to slow. If he opens that door, he knows something waits. If he stays, the thing in the glass will not remain passive. The choice vanishes when the handle begins to turn on its own. The door creaks open a fraction. Beyond the hallway, yawns wide its fluorescent lights flickering dimly, shadows bleeding along the walls. The footsteps resume echoing closer, though no one is visible. The sound multiplies, hundreds of shoes striking the carpet in uneven rhythm, growing louder, filling the space. Daniel can't move. His muscles seize as the noise builds into a thunderous stampede. The door swings fully open. The hallway is packed wall to wall with figures, men in suits from another era, women in tattered dresses, children in pajamas, bellhops in rusted uniforms. Their eyes are hollow, dark pits, leaking seawater that drips down their faces and stains the carpet. Each figure sways in silence, waiting. One by one, they raise their hands, pointing at him. Daniel staggers back, bumping into the window. The glass chills his spine. His reflection presses harder from the other side, its grin widening unnaturally. Its lips move, forming words he cannot hear, but the motion is unmistakable. "Join us." The crowd steps forward. The sound of their movement is deafening, wet shoes slapping water spilling from their clothes, the hiss of drowned breath. The first row reaches the threshold. Their faces are pale, swollen eyes, bulging mouths opening to spill streams of black water onto the carpet. Daniel twists toward the window. Outside, the flood has risen higher, swallowing rooftops. The reflection nods to him, urging him closer. His instincts scream that there is no safety in either direction. The figures pour into the room. Hands reach for him, cold, slick, pulling at his sleeves, his hair, his throat. Their touch burns like ice. Daniel thrashes, gasping, the air thick with salt. The window rattles violently. Cracks spider across the glass as his reflection pounds against it, its smile gone, now replaced with urgency, desperation. It mouths a single word over and over, frantic jump. Daniel is dragged down to his knees, fingers clawing into his arms, pulling him toward the door where the endless crowd waits. He turns once more to the glass. His reflection's eyes are wild, pleading. Jump. The window shutters a fissure, splitting it down the center. Daniel takes one last shuddering breath and throws himself against the glass. It explodes outward. He plunges into icy black water. The plunge rips the air from Daniel's lungs. Ice clamps around his chest as he tumbles into the flood shards of glass spinning beside him like falling stars. The city below stretches in impossible depth streets and towers drowned beneath black water, swaying as though submerged for centuries. He kicks upward, fighting for the surface, but the city pulls at him, dragging him deeper. Gravity has no meaning here. The water is endless, thick as night. His ears throb from the pressure, the distant groan of shifting currents vibrating in his skull. Shapes drift past him. Desks, suitcases, rusted lamps, household debris tumbling alongside bodies. Pale faces peer through the dark, their hair floating like seaweed. The drowned residents of the hotel glide with uncanny grace, their clothes rippling as though alive. Some reach for him, their fingers brushing his arms cold and slimy, urging him downward. Daniel thrashes free, his panic fueling each kick. His lungs scream for air. He bursts upward, but the water does not thin. Above, no surface waits, only more black depths. He realizes with a sickening clarity, there is no up. There is no escape. He slows chest-heaving vision, flickering at the edges. In the distance, a glow flickers faintly, pulsing like a beacon. Something vast deep below calls to him. The drowned figures begin to descend, drifting toward it as though obeying a tide older than time itself. Their mouths open, spilling silent streams of bubbles. Daniel follows. Not willingly, but because his body cannot resist the pull. The glow grows brighter, illuminating fragments of architecture, swallowed by the abyss doorframes, chandeliers. Entire hallways collapsed and sinking. The Cecil has grown roots, stretching downward into this underwater graveyard. Its skeleton expands, infinitely impossible wings of brick and steel twisting into the deep. At the heart of it, the source of the glow, a cavernous hall. Columns of stone rise from the depths, covered in barnacles and slick moss. Within its center sits a throne of rusted iron and broken hotel furniture, fused together, massive and grotesque. And on that throne a figure waits. It is draped in tattered linens, its body bloated yet regal, its face obscured by a veil of black water that constantly spills, never ending. Its hands rest on the armrests, long pale fingers tipped with nails as sharp as coral. When its head tilts, the entire abyss tilts with it, as though it commands the very water itself. The drowned swarm around Daniel, circling, their hollow eyes fixed on him. They part reverently, leaving a path to the throne. Daniel's legs move, despite him dragging him forward, each step slow against the crushing pressure. His chest feels like it will burst. His vision darkens. The figure raises one hand. The water vibrates with the motion, a soundless command echoing through his skull. Daniel collapses to his knees before the throne, his body convulsing. His reflection appears again, floating beside him in the water, serene, her gown flowing. She looks at him with the same calm expression she always carried. Her lips move. The voice is not hers, not even human, but he hears it inside his skull, vast and endless. You are ours now. The Cecil does not release. It only consumes. Daniel's scream never escapes his mouth. Only bubbles rise, vanishing into the infinite dark. Daniel shakes violently, every instinct screaming against the command. The throne's presence presses down like the weight of the ocean itself, crushing his chest, seeping into his thoughts. He feels it crawling along the edges of his mind, whispering of surrender, of rest, of finally giving in. The water hisses in his ears, translating into a single promise. You will never have to fight again. But somewhere inside the fog of panic and exhaustion, a spark resists. He remembers the sound of his own breath when he first entered the Cecil, the warmth of sunlight on his shoulders before stepping through its doors. The feeling of being alive, not just surviving in this drowned echo, but truly alive. The spark hardens into something sharper. Defiance. His reflection floats beside him serene, her lips moving in silent repetition. You are ours. You are ours. No. Daniel gurgles, though the word is nothing but bubbles. He forces it again, stronger this time, pounding his chest, as if to remind his lungs they still belong to him. No, the throne shudders. The abyss rumbles like an earthquake rolling through water. The veiled figure rises from its seat, its limbs grotesquely long barnacles snapping loose as it unfurls to its full height. The water thickens, pressing harder against him, as though the entire sea turns hostile at once. The drowned figures surge forward, their arms outstretched, grasping at him with claws of bone and rotting flesh. Daniel thrashes, kicking, pushing them away, his chest blazing with fire as oxygen runs thin. He swims upward, though there is no surface, only endless black. The throne's hand lifts. The drowned obey, swarming in coordinated waves. They pull at his legs, drag his arms down, tear at his clothes. The water around him grows red with floating threads of blood, but still he resists. He drives his fist into one face, snapping its jaw. He rips free from another's grip, clawing upward. The glow of the throne burns below, furious, now a sun of hatred swelling in the deep. The veiled figure roars, though the sound is not carried through the water, but through Daniel's skull, a vibration so intense it cracks something inside him. His vision blurs, his ears bleed, yet his will tightens further. He will not kneel. He will not drown. For a moment, everything halts. The drowned freeze. The throne's glow pulses once, twice, and then the abyss collapses inward. Daniel feels the water twist, folding like paper. The city's drowned towers bending the entire ocean, tilting around him. Reality warps, pulling him through corridors of black liquid, where walls shift doors, breathe ceilings weep. The Cecil is angry. It is reshaping itself, punishing his resistance. His body is hurled violently through one collapsing hall after another, slammed against walls, dragged down stairwells that stretch endlessly. Every window he passes shows not a city, but the open sea. The drowned world pressing closer, and then sudden stillness. Daniel crashes onto a carpet, gasping. His lungs burn as air rushes back into them, sharp and painful. He coughs, water retching, clutching his chest. He is back inside the hotel, back in its endless hallways, but nothing looks the same. The corridor pulses with dark veins like roots spreading through plaster. Doors breathe faintly, exhaling damp air. Lights flicker, not with electricity, but with the faint glow of bioluminescence, as though the walls themselves are alive. Behind him, something drips steadily, slow and deliberate. He does not turn. He knows the throne's wrath is not finished. Daniel staggers forward, every step echoing with the knowledge he has refused to be claimed. And now the Cecil will break him or consume him in ways far worse. Daniel's legs tremble as he forces himself forward, the carpet squelching faintly beneath each step. The hotel has changed, grown breathed, pulsed with its own rhythm. It no longer resembles a building, but a living corridor, every wall slick with condensation, every doorframe sagging as though made of flesh instead of wood. The ceiling flickers, bioluminescent veins spreading like constellations, casting his shadow in twisted shapes that dance behind him. His instincts drive him to find an exit. Any exit. The memory of sunlight, of warmth, feels like a prayer, now fragile, but necessary. He presses his palms against the nearest wall, tracing for seams, cracks, anything that resembles a way out. The plaster is damp, soft beneath his fingers, and it shudders faintly, recoiling, as though the building itself resents his touch. He pushes on, opening door after door. Each reveals nothing but impossibilities. A stairwell that loops back on itself in perfect circles. A room filled ankle-deep with seawater, where chairs float silently in the dark. An elevator shaft stretching infinitely upward, but with no cables, no machinery, just yawning blackness. The Cecil will not let him leave. The realization hardens in his chest like a stone. His breaths grow shallow, his throat dry despite the damp air. He staggers into a ballroom once grand, its chandeliers cracked, its parquet floor warped and buckled. The air stinks of mildew and salt. Tables and chairs are overturned, stacked like barricades long since abandoned. Daniel moves across the room, desperate, scanning the walls for windows. At the far end, behind rotting curtains, he finds one. He pulls the fabric aside, heart pounding. Outside, the drowned city waits. The skyline bends at unnatural angles, its towers sinking deeper with every blink. The streets flow like veins, rivers of ink winding through the ruins. And hovering above it all is the Cecil itself, its black brick facade rising impossibly high, stretching beyond the horizon. The truth strikes him cold. There is no outside. The hotel has consumed the city, or perhaps the city has always been inside the hotel. He is trapped not in a building, but in a world that wears the hotel's skin. A sound pulls him back, soft, wet footsteps. He turns. Across the ballroom, a figure stands in the doorway. A bellhop uniform, ragged and stained, his cap tilted askew. His face is swollen pale. His eyes two black pits that weep streams of water. He raises one arm and points directly at Daniel. From the shadows behind him, more figures emerge. Dozens, then hundreds. The drowned residents shuffle forward, filling the ballroom with their hushed steps and dripping clothes. The air thickens with the smell of brine and decay. Daniel backs against the window, his chest hammering. His reflection appears in the glass again. Her eyes calm, her smile steady. She leans close to the inside of the glass and mouths two words, no escape. The crowd advances, their silent unity more terrifying than any scream. Their arms stretch outward, reaching. Daniel clenches his fists. He has resisted once. He can resist again. But the weight of the hotel presses from every direction, reminding him that it will not allow defiance forever. The ballroom trembles. The chandeliers sway. Somewhere deep within the walls, the Cecil growls a low seismic sound, like shifting tectonic plates. It is closing in. Daniel's back presses harder against the cold glass, his breath fogging in rapid bursts. The drowned horde shuffles closer, their dripping clothes, leaving trails of dark water across the warped floor. Their silence is suffocating, their movements unnervingly synchronized as though one mind directs them all. His fists clench, nails biting into his palms. There's no way he can fight them all, yet something inside him refuses to kneel. If he gives up now, he becomes one of them, just another husk bound to the Cecil's hunger. The first row reaches him, their outstretched fingers brushing his sleeves. Instinct surges. Daniel shoves one figure backward with all his strength, its bloated body collapsing into the others. They stumble, but the horde does not falter. Instead, they surge faster, a tidal wave of bodies pressing forward. Daniel roars a sound torn from the depths of his lungs and swings wildly. His fists crash into pale faces, his knees drive into chests. Bones crack beneath his strikes, water spurts from ruined mouths. But for every figure that falls, two more take its place. Their hands claw at his shoulders, his throat, his hair trying to drag him down. He tears free and lashes out with a broken chair leg from the barricade, swinging it like a club. The wood splinters against skulls, sending fragments scattering across the warped parquet. For a brief moment, he carves a pocket of space around him, his chest heaving, his vision tunneling. But the ballroom itself begins to shift. The walls stretch, elongating unnaturally, pushing the drowned forward in waves. The chandeliers above groan, melting like wax, their crystal dripping into viscous puddles that writhe across the floor. The hotel is aiding its army, tightening the trap. Daniel fights harder, adrenaline burning in his veins. He smashes faces, kicks knees, even bites at cold flesh when too many arms clutch him at once. Yet the horde is endless, inexhaustible, their eyeless faces unflinching. Each time he wounds one, it only rises again, its body stitched together by water unstoppable. A hand clamps around his neck, nails digging into his skin. Another claws at his arm, trying to tear it away from his weapon. Daniel's scream is raw as he slams the chair leg through one figure's head, wrenching it free in a spray of brine. Still they keep coming. Desperation drives him to the window. His reflection watches with that same calm smile, but something has changed. The smile falters just for a heartbeat, replaced by a look of pity. Her lips shape a new word: run. Daniel shatters the glass with his makeshift weapon shards, spraying into the drowned city beyond. Cold air rushes in, carrying the scent of salt and rot. He doesn't hesitate. With a final shove against the advancing horde, he leaps through the broken frame. The fall is endless. Wind howls around him, the drowned city rising up to meet him like an ocean of black stone and water. Buildings twist, streets coil like serpents, the horizon bending into impossible curves. As he plummets, the Cecil looms above its windows, glowing faintly with 1,000 unseen eyes. He braces for impact, but instead of smashing into streets or waves, the world folds in on itself. He lands hard on a carpeted floor. The air is hot, dry, stale, with the scent of dust and old smoke. Daniel lifts his head. He is not outside. He is in another hallway deeper. Stranger, the walls painted blood red, the carpet patterned with twisting shapes that seem to move when he doesn't look directly at them. Behind him, the shattered window has sealed itself smooth and whole, as if it had never been broken. The Cecil has drawn him further inside. The red corridor stretches before Daniel, like a wound that never closes. The walls pulse faintly, their hue shifting between crimson and black, the color of blood under shifting light. The carpet beneath his feet is soft, but it coils under his weight, as though filled with things alive, writhing just beneath the surface. He steadies himself against the wall, his breathing ragged ears ringing from the fall or whatever passage had carried him here. That was no leap from a window. The Cecil had folded reality in on itself, plucking him like a figure from a board game, dropping him deeper into its labyrinth. Then he hears it, faint at first, carried through the stillness the sound of music, slow lilting with the static crackle of a gramophone needle. A waltz, warped but still recognizable. The melody twists and echoes strangely, as though underwater drifting through the corridor. Daniel hesitates. Every instinct warns him that following such a sound is a trap. But standing still feels worse. The hotel will not let him linger long before something finds him. He presses forward one careful step after another toward the faint music. The corridor bends sharply. The air thickens hot and heavy, tinged with the smell of old perfume and cigarette smoke. The walls narrow, pressing close until the space feels more like a throat swallowing him whole. At the end, a door waits. Heavy wood, its surface carved with curling patterns that almost resemble faces when the light flickers across them. The music is clearer here, undeniably, on the other side. Daniel places a trembling hand on the handle. It's warm, too warm, like skin fevered with sickness. He pushes it open. The ballroom lies beyond, but not the ruined one he fled from. This one is pristine. Gleaming chandeliers hang overhead, pouring golden light over polished parquet floors. Tables gleam with white linens, silver cutlery, crystal glasses. Smoke curls lazily in the air, lit by the flicker of candles. And people are here, dozens of them dressed in fine suits and gowns from decades past, laughing softly, sipping drinks, dancing to the slow waltz that drifts from a corner gramophone. Their faces are pale, their movements too smooth, too rehearsed, as though they are actors caught in endless repetition. Yet none of them appear to notice Daniel's intrusion. He steps inside his boots, clicking against the flawless floor. The music swells. Heads turn toward him, not all at once, but gradually, like flowers turning toward sunlight. Smiles stretch across faces that are too wide teeth, too white. Their eyes glisten wetly, reflecting light like black water. A woman in a sequined gown glides toward him, her steps unnervingly silent despite her heels. She tilts her head, her smile brittle. "Welcome home," she whispers, though her lips barely move. Daniel's throat tightens. His gaze darts around, searching for exits. The doors are gone. Only the dance. Only the crowd. The music winds tighter, crackling louder, the needle grating across vinyl. The woman extends her hand. Her skin glimmers faintly damp, as though coated with condensation. Behind her, others approach the dancers, breaking formation, drifting closer, their smiles unwavering. Daniel stumbles back. His reflection flashes in a nearby glass. Her face pale but calm, her lips forming the word again. Dance. The crowd circles him now, gowns brushing, suits swaying. The waltz fills the air, a suffocating rhythm pulling him inward. He can feel the tug at his chest, a compulsion winding tighter. He realizes, horrified, that if he accepts the hand, if he steps into the dance, he may never stop. He'll be waltzing with them forever, trapped in this gilded nightmare. But the alternative, defiance, feels equally dangerous. The Cecil has no tolerance for refusal. The music swells again, vibrating through the very floorboards. The woman's hand hovers inches from his chest, her sequins shimmering with each flicker of candlelight. The dancers sway around him, their smiles widening, their eyes glistening with dark reflections that seem to contain whole oceans. The waltz presses against his skull, weaving into his heartbeat, whispering that there is no choice but to submit. But Daniel has not survived this far by surrendering. His breath hitches as he jerks his head back, shaking off the pull, forcing his thoughts into clarity. The woman's hand lingers, waiting. He feels his arm twitch toward hers, some invisible thread dragging him forward. He snarls through clenched teeth and slaps her hand aside. The effect is immediate. The ballroom freezes. Every dancer halts mid-step, mid-laugh, mid-sip. Crystal glasses pause in mid-air. The gramophone needle scratches violently across the record, a shriek of static splitting the silence. The woman's smile collapses into something rawer, stretched too far, her lips cracking at the edges as her teeth grind together. Her voice comes out as a hiss, layered with dozens of others. "You were supposed to dance." The crowd erupts. They surge forward, their bodies moving with a grotesque fluidity, gowns dragging like kelp limbs, twisting too long, too sharp. Their pale hands reach for him, dozens of them clawing with fingers that glisten wet. Daniel's instincts flare. He smashes through the nearest table, grabbing a silver candlestick. Flames sputter wildly as he swings it in a wide arc. The nearest figure shrieks when the fire brushes her skin, her gown bursting into smoke. She collapses not into ash, but into a flood of water that gushes across the floorboards, soaking Daniel's boots. He fights like a man possessed. The candlestick strikes skulls, sends sparks across sequins. Every dancer he topples bursts into torrents of water, their fine clothes unraveling into brine-soaked tatters. The ballroom floor becomes slick waves lapping at his ankles. The waltz resumes, warped faster now, as though mocking him. The dancers do not relent. They circle tighter, their faces unraveling, their eyes leaking black water. Daniel roars and charges toward the far wall, shoving through writhing bodies. He slams the candlestick into the plaster, expecting resistance. Instead, the wall gives way like wet paper. He crashes through, tumbling into darkness. He lands on stairs. A staircase spirals downward, impossibly steep, vanishing into shadows below. The air here is cold dry, carrying a scent of dust and rusted iron. Behind him, the ballroom howls with inhuman rage, the music shrieking as if the record has caught fire. Daniel grips the railing and forces himself downward. Step after step, the sound of the ballroom fades, swallowed by the stairwell's silence. Only his breathing, ragged and trembling, remains. The stairs end at a door. Heavy iron riveted like the hatch of a ship. Its surface is ice cold. Daniel presses his palm to it and feels vibrations faint, rhythmic, like something vast is breathing on the other side. He steadies himself, candle still in hand, flame quivering. He pushes the door open. The space beyond is cavernous. No longer a hotel, no longer a building. It is a cathedral of concrete and stone, vast pillars vanishing into shadows above arches dripping with condensation. Pools of black water spread across the floor, reflecting dim, unnatural light. In the center stands an altar, massive, carved from the same brick as the Cecil's facade. And on it rests something vast and shapeless, wrapped in shadows that shift like living flesh. Daniel's breath catches. The hotel's heart. The altar looms in the center of the cathedral, its bulk radiating a cold pressure that drags at Daniel's chest. Every instinct screams to stay back, to avoid the writhing shape that rests atop it. Yet curiosity knows something deeper. Almost compulsion pulls him closer. His steps echo across the flooded floor, each splash reverberating through the cavern like a drumbeat. The shadows clinging to the altar ripple as he nears, twisting into vague forms, faces without eyes, hands reaching mouths, opening in silent screams. They dissolve and reform a chorus of the hotel's past victims, murmuring wordlessly in the black. Daniel raises the candlestick, its flame wavering violently in the damp air. The firelight licks the edges of the altar, revealing carvings etched deep into the stone. Words in no language he recognizes, looping sigils like snakes devouring their own tails, spirals that lead endlessly inward. He places a hand against the stone. It's colder than ice, but alive, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. The shadows recoil from the flame, then surge back, wrapping hungrily around his wrist. Daniel gasps, jerking back, but the tendrils only tighten, slithering up his arm. The altar speaks, not with sound, but directly into his skull. 1,000 voices layered into one low whet, echoing as if spoken underwater. "You are already ours." Daniel staggers, clutching his head. Images explode behind his eyes, glimpses of every death within the Cecil suicides, from windows, overdoses in rooms, bodies hidden in walls, blood soaking through sheets. He sees them all at once, feels their fear, their last moments, their screams muffled in this endless maw. His knees buckle. He fights the urge to sink into the water to surrender. "No," he whispers, though the sound feels paper thin. "I'm not yours." The shadows coil tighter, dragging him closer to the altar's surface. His reflection flickers faintly in the black water at his feet. She stands firm, unyielding lips moving silently. This time, he doesn't need to read them. He knows the word. Fight. With a guttural cry, Daniel slams the candlestick down on the shadows. The flame flares, impossibly bright, white-hot, searing through the tendrils. They screech like boiling steam, recoiling, retreating back into the altar's heart. The whole cathedral shakes. Water ripples violently, pillars groan and cracks spiderweb across the stone floor. From the altar, the mass convulses, shuddering as though wounded. Daniel stumbles back, chest heaving. The flame gutters low, nearly dying. He grips it tight, his only anchor in the blackness. Then from the far side of the cavern, something stirs. Another figure steps out of the shadows. Human in shape, draped in soaked clothing that clings to his frame. His eyes are pools of black water, but his face, Daniel freezes. It is his own. The double stands across the pool, watching him silently expressionless. Slowly it raises its own candlestick lit with a flame as pale as bone. The Cecil has made him a mirror. The doppelganger's pale flame casts long shadows stretching across the black water like reaching fingers. Daniel's chest tightens as he stares into its face, his own features drained of warmth, his eyes hollow voids filled with stagnant depths. It tilts its head slightly in uncanny mimicry, as if testing the boundaries of their sameness. The silence between them feels alive charged, broken only by the dripping of unseen leaks from the cathedral's ceiling. Daniel steps forward cautiously, raising his candlestick. The flame sputters weaker than the other's pale fire. The reflection moves in perfect synchronization, its motions smooth, rehearsed. But Daniel notices something strange: the delay. A fraction of a second, hardly noticeable, but real. His double is not truly him. It's an echo, a puppet, lagging behind. He narrows his eyes, gripping the candlestick tighter. "You're not me." The doppelganger opens its mouth, and Daniel's own voice spills out, layered with 1,000 others. "I am everything you have left behind. I am what you will become." The words rattle the cathedral. The altar quakes shadows, writhing in approval. The doppelganger lifts its flame higher, the light pouring outward in harsh, sterile brilliance. Daniel shields his eyes, but the glow sears through his lids, burning into his thoughts. Memories surface, unbidden times of despair, guilt, the moments he wanted to vanish. The mirror self feeds on them. Daniel drops to one knee, fighting the pull, forcing his mind to hold on to something else. He recalls her, the reflection, steadfast, whispering, "Fight." He clings to her image, her certainty, her calm. A plan forms. Instead of advancing, Daniel staggers sideways, his boots splashing deliberately in the pools. His flame flickers, tracing wild shadows across the cathedral walls. The doppelganger follows, but the delay widens half a second now, its steps echoing like a broken recording. Daniel realizes the truth. The doppelganger is not an enemy to battle head-on. It thrives on confrontation, on his weaknesses reflected. To defeat it, he must outpace the echo, break the rhythm. He pivots suddenly, lunging toward one of the pillars. His candlestick smashes into it, scattering sparks and flame across the damp stone. The reflection lags, turning too late. Daniel dashes toward the far edge of the cathedral, weaving through shadow, every movement unpredictable, irregular. The double falters its motions, jerky, stuttering. Its flame gutters pale light, shrinking with every misstep. Rage boils across its stolen features, but it cannot catch him. It is always half a beat behind. Daniel skids to the edge of a great pool, its surface black as tar. He doesn't hesitate. He hurls his candlestick into the water. The flame explodes fire, racing across the surface in a sudden bloom of light and smoke. The doppelganger shrieks. Its pale fire sputters violently, collapsing inward until nothing remains but steam. The figure itself convulses, fragments peeling away like shattered glass until it collapses into the water, dissolving without a trace. The cathedral shudders violently. Cracks burst across the altar shadows, spilling out like blood from a wound. The water churns, rising rapidly, waves crashing against the pillars. Daniel backs away, chest heaving, as the whole chamber groans under the weight of collapse. Somewhere far above the faint sound of the hotel's hallways returns a reminder that the Cecil never lets go, and Daniel knows he has not escaped yet. The cathedral trembles, as if the very bones of the building are fracturing. Water surges upward, black waves slapping against Daniel's knees, then his thighs. The altar cracked, and groaning seems ready to implode at any moment. He glances toward the spiraling stairs that led him down here, already swallowed by the rising tide. No way back. The air is filled with the roar of water and the deep guttural moan of stone under strain. Daniel grips a jagged edge of the nearest pillar, steadying himself against the current. Above, he can just make out faint glimpses of the ceiling, but there are no ladders, no clear exit. If he climbs, he risks being stranded trapped until the water consumes everything. Then the altar splits wide. The crack runs through its center, bursting open in a violent spray of stone and shadow. The shape atop it, once amorphous, collapses inward, as if something vast and ancient has slipped beneath the surface. The ground trembles, then caves, pulling water with it in a spiraling torrent. A whirlpool yawns wide, swallowing the altar and everything around it. The black current grabs Daniel's legs, dragging him toward the abyss. He claws at the pillar nails, splitting muscles, straining. But the pull is irresistible. For a fleeting second, panic grips him, then something steadier rises. He recalls her face and the reflection lips, forming that word again. Fight. But this time, he understands the fight is not only to resist. Sometimes survival demands surrender to the pull to plunge deeper, where the truth hides. With a ragged breath, Daniel lets go. The current claims him, instantly spinning him downward in a vortex of foam and darkness. The roar fills his ears, and for a moment, he feels himself tearing apart memory flesh, and thought scattered like debris in the flood. Yet somehow, he holds together, carried deeper and deeper. The whirlpool deposits him with sudden violence into another chamber. He crashes against slick stone, coughing, spitting black water. Around him, the space is not cavernous, but close, suffocating. The walls are narrow, the ceiling low, dripping constantly. Rusted pipes run along the stone. Some cracked open, leaking streams that mingle with the stagnant pools at his feet. This is no cathedral. It is a basement. Daniel staggers upright, his head pounding. The air is thick with mold, the stench of rot and rust. Dim bulbs flicker overhead, swaying as if caught in some unseen draft. Along the walls, he sees old mattresses stacked like refuse, stained and decayed. Shapes slumped against them. Shapes too still, too silent. He doesn't dare look closely, though he knows what they are. The Cecil's buried secrets, the bodies no one ever found. Somewhere deeper, a metallic clang echoes a door slamming, or perhaps something dragging chains across the floor. The sound reverberates through the pipes, a message carried through the bowels of the hotel. Daniel takes a cautious step forward, water sloshing around his boots. The floor slopes slightly downward, leading deeper into the maze. Faintly beneath the dripping and the groaning pipes, he hears it again, the waltz. Slow this time, almost tender, echoing from below. There is no question now. The Cecil is leading him further down into its true heart, and Daniel knows whatever waits here is not only the hotel's secret, it is the root of its hunger. The waltz drifts faintly through the basement corridors, its melody curling like smoke through the rusted pipes and dripping stone. Daniel stands at the threshold, heart-hammering boots heavy with water. Every instinct warns him that the music is a lure, a thread pulling him deeper into the Cecil's maw. Yet hesitation sharpens into calculation. If he plunges forward unprepared, the hotel will consume him whole. He steadies his breath and turns toward the side rooms. The first doorway yawns open with a long metallic groan, as though it hasn't been touched in decades. Daniel pushes through Candlestick, long since lost his hands, trembling in the weak glow of the swaying bulbs above. The room reeks of mildew and rust, its floor littered with scraps of furniture, a rusted bed frame, the skeletal remains of a chair, a cracked mirror leaning against the wall. The mirror stops him cold. Its surface is warped, mottled with corrosion. Yet as he leans closer, he sees not his reflection, but hers. She stands tall in the glass dry and unbroken eyes, steady lips whispering words he cannot hear, but feels in his bones. Keep going. Daniel presses his hand to the mirror's surface. It's cold, but beneath it, he senses a faint vibration, as if the glass itself is alive. He wants to linger, to draw strength from her presence, but a sudden clang echoes from deeper in the basement. The sound jolts him back. He cannot remain here. He tears himself from the mirror's gaze and searches the rest of the room. In the corner beneath the rusted frame, he finds a length of iron pipe, jagged at one end, heavy, brutal. He hefts it, feeling its balance. A weapon. Not much, but something real to hold against the shadows. The next room is darker. The bulb overhead, long dead. Daniel steps inside cautiously, his makeshift weapon raised. The air here is different, heavier, charged with the sour stench of stagnant water. His boot strikes something soft, yielding. He crouches, squinting. A mattress. No several stacked against the wall. Shapes bulge beneath their stained fabric. Daniel's throat tightens as he realizes these are no abandoned beds. He edges closer, and the truth sinks in. Bodies. Long hidden, pressed into silence. The Cecil has been feeding here, hoarding its remains like a miser with gold. He stumbles back, bile rising, when a faint sound shivers through the room. Not the waltz, not the pipes breathing. His pulse spikes. He freezes, weapon clutched, tight ears straining. The breathing is shallow, rattling just beyond the far stack of mattresses. Against every instinct, Daniel creeps forward, pulling aside a collapsed frame. Something stirs. From beneath the stained fabric, a hand slips free, pale slick with water trembling weakly. The fingers curl, reaching toward him. Not a corpse. Not yet. Help! The voice is so thin he nearly misses it, a sigh more than a word. Daniel crouches, torn between revulsion and pity. Someone alive here, buried among the Cecil's trophies. How long they've survived in this dark he cannot imagine. Their face is obscured, skin waxen, lips cracked, but their eyes find his with desperate clarity. He grips their hand tightly, the chill of it cutting to his bones. "I'll get you out." But even as he says it, he wonders, is this another trick of the hotel? Another mask it wears to keep him tethered. The weight of the Cecil presses down from all sides, whispering that nothing here is what it seems. The breathing rattles again, weaker this time. The figure's eyes roll back, their grip slackening. Daniel feels time slipping through his fingers, and with it a choice. Daniel tightens his grip on the cold hand, the fragile pulse beneath his fingers fading with every second. The survivor's eyes flutter half shut, the whites showing through like the rolling back of a tide. He knows the Cecil could be toying with him, another illusion spun to drain his strength. But the weight of the hand in his own feels real. The tremor of its life is not imagined. And for the first time in this labyrinth of death, he is confronted with a soul who might be as trapped as he is. He cannot leave them. With a grunt, Daniel pries apart the collapsed mattresses, dragging the frail body into the open. The figure is gaunt, clothes in tatters, skin pallid from damp confinement. Their breath rattles shallowly, but a faint thread of will still clings to them. Daniel hoists the stranger up their weight, alarmingly light, as though hollowed out by weeks, months of neglect. The waltz swells louder, drifting down the corridor as if mocking his delay. The hotel watches patient. "Stay with me, Daniel," whispers, shifting the body over his shoulder. The iron pipe in his free hand feels clumsy now, but he clings to it regardless. Step by step, he carries the survivor toward the hall. The basement feels different, with two sets of lungs drawing its foul air. Every drip of water, every groan in the pipes, every echo of music seems sharper, more deliberate, as though the Cecil is amused by this act of defiance. The survivor stirs once, muttering something that Daniel can barely catch. Stairs. The stairs. Daniel freezes. Stairs. There were none, only the whirlpool that dropped him here. He presses the figure for clarity, but they sink back into silence, their head lolling against his shoulder. Still, the word lodges in his mind like a compass point. Somewhere in this basement, there must be a hidden passage upward. He presses on, following the waltz, but with sharper caution. Side doors flash past, some open to reveal only ruin, more frames, more stains, shadows that shift without cause. The air grows thicker, the pipes hissing faintly as though they're exhaling. The survivor stirs again, whispering something else, but this time it's incoherent, lost in the murmur of water. The corridor bends sharply. Ahead, the waltz grows clearer, accompanied now by the faint shuffle of feet, like dancers circling on a hidden floor. Daniel sets the survivor against the wall, crouching to steady them. Their eyes flick open, briefly glazed yet aware. "Don't go," they rasp, a tear sliding across their hollow cheek. Daniel's throat tightens. He presses the pipe into their weak grasp, curling their fingers around it. "I'll come back." The promise tastes like ash in his mouth. Drawing a steadying breath, Daniel steps toward the bend in the corridor. The music spills full, now rich and resonant, as if an unseen ballroom stretches just beyond the wall. And beneath it, faint but undeniable, is a rhythm of footsteps, partners in a dance. Too many to count. He steels himself every nerve taut. The Cecil has led him here for this moment, and whatever waits beyond the bend will not be a shadow or echo. It will be the truth. The music beckons like an open door, but the survivor's rasp clings to Daniel's mind. The stairs, a way out. The Cecil has dragged him down deeper and deeper, and yet if there is truly a passage upward, perhaps the labyrinth is not endless. Perhaps survival does not demand surrender to its every lure. Daniel pulls back from the bend, heart pounding, and returns to where the survivor slumps against the wall. Their lips are pale, trembling words struggling to form. He crouches close, straining to catch the faint breath, where Daniel whispers urgently, "Where are the stairs?" The survivor's gaze drifts toward a section of the corridor where pipes run low against the wall. Their arm lifts weakly, pointing not at the bend and its ballroom echoes, but at a shadowed recess, nearly hidden by a tangle of rusted metal. The gesture falters, their hand dropping as though the effort has stolen the last of their strength. Daniel follows the line of sight. The pipes curve into the wall, their dripping constantly disguising what looks at first like nothing more than a collapsed section of stone. But as he steps closer, weapon raised, he sees it a seam in the wall. Narrow, deliberate. A doorway. With a grunt, Daniel wedges the iron pipe into the seam and pries. The stone shudders, flakes crumbling away, and with a screech the slab gives swinging inward to reveal a set of corroded stairs spiraling upward into darkness. The air that spills out is different, cooler, tinged with dust instead of rot. It feels almost fresh. The survivor had not lied. He turns back to them chest tight. "There's a way," he murmurs. "I can carry you." But even as he bends to lift them, the music changes. The waltz behind the bend swells suddenly violently, as though enraged by his discovery. The sound of feet grows louder, pounding now instead of gliding. The unseen dancers are no longer circling in grace. They are marching, converging, rushing toward him. The very walls seem to quake. The pipes rattle violently, water spraying from their seams. The bulbs overhead flicker, then burst showering sparks into the flooded hall. The Cecil is closing in, furious at his refusal to step into its grand performance. The survivor stirs eyes wide with sudden fear. "Go," they rasp. "Go now." Daniel heaves them over his shoulder muscles, straining, and plunges toward the stairs. The stairwell groans as he stumbles inside, water rushing at his heels, the roar of the phantom ballroom surging behind him. Each step upward feels like climbing against a current, the air tightening as if the hotel itself is squeezing to drag him back. But still he climbs. The waltz follows a tidal wave of sound, pressing up the stairwell, echoing in his skull. He staggers, nearly dropping the survivor, but grits his teeth and pushes higher. Above faintly, there is a hint of light, dim gray, like dawn seen through a veil. And yet even as hope surges in his chest, something else rises with him. The music twists, splintering, shifting into whispers. Voices calling his name. Not just one, but dozens. Male, female, young, old, their tones weaving together into a chorus of need. The Cecil is not letting him go without one final choice. The chorus swells, pressing against Daniel's skull like invisible hands. His name, dozens of voices overlapping, rising and falling in a tide of desperation. It feels as though the stairwell is narrowing with every step, stone walls squeezing closer, water rushing higher, the Cecil itself dragging him back toward its heart. But above, that faint light, a gray shimmer, fragile yet undeniable, threading through the darkness. He tightens his grip on the survivor's frail body, their weight a reminder that he is not alone, that there is something to fight for beyond the whispering walls. He sets his jaw. No, he growls to the voices, to the hotel, to the shadows clawing at his heels. He presses forward, step by agonizing step, every muscle screaming, water dragging at his legs. The survivor stirs faintly, their head lifting against his shoulder, as if they too sense the fragile dawn above. The voices shift, their harmony breaking. They cry louder, their pitch sharp and frantic, pleading now instead of commanding. Stay, dance, belong. The hotel howls through its chorus, begging for surrender. But Daniel does not falter. His boots slam against the corroded metal stairs, iron pipe clanging with every desperate climb. The light grows, spilling across his face at last. It is not warm, not golden. It is pallid gray, the hue of early morning filtered through smog. Yet to Daniel, it is everything. A crack in the Cecil's hold. With a final gasping heave, he breaches the stairwell's mouth. He collapses onto a cold, tiled floor, dragging the survivor with him. Air floods his lungs dry and sharp, carrying with it the faint hum of traffic from far above. He dares to look around. A boiler room, rusted, half abandoned, but real. Pipes hiss and valves drip, yet here the air is not soaked with the hotel's whispers. The voices behind him falter, dimming with every second, as though the stairwell itself seals shut. Daniel hauls the survivor onto their back, shaking them gently. Their eyelids flutter, and though weak, their lips part. You made it. For the first time since entering the Cecil's depths, Daniel allows himself to believe. He presses his forehead to the cold tile, the weight of exhaustion finally breaking over him. The waltz is gone. The whispers are gone. Only silence remains. Yet, as his eyes close, one thought cuts through. The Cecil never lets go completely. Perhaps he has escaped its bowels. Perhaps dawn waits above. But somewhere behind the walls, the music still lingers, waiting for its next guest to hear the first haunting note. And so, dear listener, the Cecil Hotel grows quiet once more. Daniel breathes in the stale morning air, the faint sound of traffic drifting down through the cracks of the city above. He is alive, though, marked by the echo of what he has seen, by the hands that reached for him from the dark, by the whispers that may never quite fade. The survivor stirs at his side, their frail chest rising and falling with stubborn rhythm. Two souls wrestled from the grasp of something ancient, something that has fed on loneliness and despair for decades. Tonight, for the briefest of moments, the Cecil was denied its prize. But you and I both know it is not the kind of place that sleeps forever. Close your eyes now. Let the image of those winding stairs fade, the oppressive chorus fading into nothing but distant memory. Feel your breath slow, steady, a tide rolling in and out. The horrors of the Cecil, the dripping pipes and hollow mirrors cannot reach you here. They are stories, now shadows sealed safely within walls you will never walk. Let your mind drift toward calm places, the sound of gentle rain against your window, the hum of a fan circling in the night. The city is far away. The hotel is just a name, a ghost on the other side of the dark. You are safe, you are warm, and sleep at last can find you.